And I am ready when you are.
So our research question was, how does violence from the Taliban affect women's education in the Swat district of Pakistan? So the issue at hand is, in Pakistan, women have much less of an access to education than men. A major barrier that stands between them receiving education from men is violent attacks targeting the women's educational facilities by the Taliban. Many women don't attend school because of fear of the violent attacks caused by the Taliban, being assaulted, or even being killed. Ella Martinez, a senior researcher at the Human Rights Watch, made a statement saying that 75% of women never attend school compared to 40% of men. Her research focuses on education and things that hinder young girls from receiving an education. Malala Yousafzai is a young Pakistani woman who advocated for women's access to education. The Taliban attempted to put a stop to her campaign when they shot her in the head, but miraculously she did survive and continues to advocate for women's access to education in Pakistan. The problem lies within the government. Article 25A of Pakistan's constitution states that the government must provide free education to children ages 5 to 16. In many cases, this law is overlooked, and if education is provided, it does not meet standards that parents feel safely about sending their young daughters to school.
So our solution is that in order to initiate a change in women's access to education, Pakistan needs support from their own government as well as their international allies. Adding on to that, Pakistan must stop the Taliban from seizing their land by enforcing their power and not allowing the Taliban to occupy that area. Secondly, a recommendation by Hazan Fair, CEO of Women's Empowerment Organization, suggests that Pakistan should ask for financial help from their allies in order to provide access to a safe and equal education and help fight against violence towards women. Lastly, suggested by Scott Warden, a director of Afghanistan and Central Asia, Pakistan should work closely with international organizations in order to establish camps for women and children to be provided a safe environment for an education.
The supporting evidence that I have found from Dal Kamal, I have been beaten by Taliban guards, insulted verbally, and have turned away and told that there is no passport for me, which goes for one of the solutions where the last ones where Pakistan have to establish international organizations in order to provide a safe environment for women and children to not have to not be frightened from the Taliban, which is one of the reasons why it prevents them from even receiving an education. Women are more scared of the Taliban and in fear of being beaten or verbally abused. And another one of my evidences is that throughout the world, girls are neglected in education, physically mistreated, sexually abused, sold into slavery, and are put into a young marriage, which is one of my other evidences that prevent them from going to education. Another evidence for one of the solutions are when the government has to come for international allies or provide support from different international allies, or sorry for that. But one of the other evidences that I had gotten is sanction of the Taliban will increase if they continue to do war, which will then, which from the Human Rights Commission, they will increase the sanctions, and if the Taliban continues to do their war crimes. That concludes my supporting evidences.
A limitation to our solution is that Pakistan is economically suffering, so this makes it difficult for the government to effectively enforce the laws that they make against the Taliban corruption.
in the Financial Daily, an economic newspaper ran by Karachi University, they reported that the Pakistan's political instability is like crippling their economy. They can't have proper like checks and balances to kind of stop the corruption. And then another limitation to our solution is that Pakistan aids the Taliban, like financially and militantly. So allies like the U.S. are hesitant to like help the country or aid in any sort of way, whether it be financial or the military. Written by Vanda Felbag-Brown, an expert in international conflicts, Pakistan has provided direct aid to the Taliban and other terrorist groups, leading to the death of U.S. soldiers and civilians within the region. Foreign aid from the U.S. and other countries are being withheld because of the. And thank you for listening.
All right. Okay, so let's look at some questions here. So let's start with Amber. What is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from your team presentation, and why?
We actually decided to exclude a lot from my paper. Is that okay to use? Okay. Mine was like the scientific standpoint, and I focused a lot on like psychological effects that the Taliban's violence had on women. Our solution kind of focused on the economic problem, or the economic way to help fund education in Pakistan. So it really wasn't sufficient evidence to put in psychological effects that the violence had.
Okay. Kathy, if you had another team member, what other perspective or limitations could they have reached that would have made a useful contribution to the project?
If we had another person, they would probably be economic, because we need to understand more about the statistics of why the government is so weak, and the Taliban, it can so easily control them.
All right. Alexa, how did the group decide to include Logan's perspective, lens, or conclusion into the overall presentation?
Well, the group decided to include Logan's presentation, which her lens was political, which was one of the main things of our presentation, and how the Taliban had such a high political standpoint, and how they overran the government in Pakistan.
All right. And Logan, what is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
So our resolution was more of how other countries could influence the economic and situation within the violence in Pakistan. Mine was more about how their own government could influence the violence and put an end to it from the Taliban. And I didn't really think about how international nations and stuff could help.
Okay, good job. Thank you.